Slight technical difficulty. Welcome, everybody, to the After Dark Show. I'm Don Rogers. This is a very special Wednesday edition of the After Dark Show because when I was able to lock down a time slot with this guest, I absolutely had to. I had the opportunity to speak to her with, probably my best friend that I've never actually met in real life, Stephen Stathis over at BG Cast. And it was just an absolutely phenomenal conversation. And I had the opportunity to reach out to her again, and she agreed to do this. And I'm so thankful. And who I'm talking about is the alchemist, Sarah Elkhaldy. And for those that are unfamiliar, Sarah teaches higher dimensional guidance through spiritual awakenings. She is an author, a researcher, a public speaker, and a spiritual teacher. She has a vast array of knowledge of the esoteric arts, assisting others to understand their own spiritual awakening. Her YouTube channel has over 300,000 subscribers and over 200 helpful videos. And on a personal note, I actually have to say I've watched a lot of those, and they have greatly helped me through my spiritual awakening. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming back, Sarah, and welcome to the After Dark Show.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So before I go too far into it, I have to give credit where credit is due. Of course, I mentioned Stephen there, who is literally my best internet friend. Like, him and I have so many parallels. It's just insane. But one of the people behind the scenes who I don't think gets enough credit is my wife, or as I call her, my interdimensional exit buddy. She has been the guidance for my entire spiritual awakening. She was researching this stuff far before I did. And when I started coming online, I had 50 million questions and no one to ask. And she's like, oh, she actually was the main reason I even started a podcast, because I had so many questions. This was the most efficient way to get answers, is just to reach out and start talking to people. So, and I think she did it a little bit to manifest some protection for her own sanity as well, because I was probably driving her crazy for about 3 weeks, because it was just, when I clicked on, I could not shut up. So that's kind of a backstory, because she found Chris, and through Chris, we found Stephen, and through Stephen, I saw your videos, and they are absolutely wonderful assets for anybody just coming to their understanding or spiritual awakening or whatever you want to say. So on that note, I want to thank you for doing what you do, because they are very useful. Your goal of helping people through their spiritual awakening is absolutely being met, because you're nailing it. So thank you.
Thank you. That's like the best compliment ever.
I'm just trying to figure out where I was here. So this is, like I was saying, in many of your videos, you talk about your other self, and I am in the process of trying to control my other self, because my intellectual side just wants to rapid fire questions, but I actually want to, because I've never heard, like, what was the catalyst or turning point of your awakening or understanding, or did you kind of come into this existence with an understanding? Like, what really set all of your esoteric understanding and research into motion, I guess?
I was kind of like the best way I could describe it was, I was like a lighter. You know how you strike a match? I was the matchstick waiting for the lighter to just come and do it. So I was always just dormantly, not really dormant. I was always dormantly active. So yeah, I came into this reality. I guess another way of saying that, less abstract, would be already ready to go, already with a fight in me, already not knowing what the hell was going on, but knowing that there was something going on. So by the time I started genuinely going through content that you could say sparked me, it was like, oh, heck yeah, I knew something was wrong with this reality, because it just never felt good. It never felt good. And so how I interpreted that all my young life was as what I can now put words to as like a highly existential dilemma. existential, the way that like French philosophers or poets say existence is suffering, things of that nature that I never knew other people even thought of, and things like that, because I was too young to know what these things were, and too young, I guess, in general, to kind of be able to understand what I was going through. Now I have words, now I have context, I have an understanding looking back. But at the time, in less articulate, knowing ways, I always had an existential dilemma that I was aware of.
That actually really resonates. Like, I was never a A student. In fact, I was a solid C student, but I always felt like I had an understanding of things. And a lot of the times when I would try to explain some of these things, even as younger, I had an active imagination, and that can't be right. And like, I was explaining like concepts of reality and how I thought this existence worked at a very young age, and everybody just thought I was a strange little kid and just kind of talking out of my butt, and like, oh, you don't know, you're just making stuff up. You've watched too many movies, or some easy to explain like why a 10-year-old would have this kind of understanding, right? It must have come from a movie, or you've just read too many comics, or you've made this up, right? Yeah. So yeah, I totally get where you came from in that sense. With your esoteric and universal understanding, was it stuff that you've like been led to read, or do you get a lot of gnosis and just sort of that understanding?
Both. So I think I've mentioned this in perhaps past talks with Stephen, or maybe the last one we had, but I'm a projector, and that's just the best way that I can explain something that would be really weird. So I'm not trying to, I don't really think about human design other than when this question comes up, or when I'm trying to help a client kind of like understand how they can best go about manifesting. That's the other time. But it doesn't like cross my mind. I don't live by my design. It's nothing like that. It's just the best template or paradigm that I could give so that someone else could kind of understand how it's my second nature. It's very natural for me to research, to learn systems. And even while I'm learning them, I'm getting, even before I'm learning them, but no matter what, I'm getting my own information. And this could come off as arrogant, but this is just the truth. A lot of the systems want to be updated. They if somebody said something a long time ago and it kind of got lost in the game of telephone, I am here to say this is what was said. This is what was meant. So whatever you want to call that, that's my own cognizance. That's beyond the system. So I just call it gnosis.
I really love that explanation, because that was actually a huge part of my awakening. I know I didn't get a chance to tell you too much, but what actually sparked me to start to have my understanding was I was having some very interesting multi-dimensional conscious experiences every time I went to sleep. And, you know, most people call this the SSP, and that's what it was. But it also brought me to the realization that, wait a second, if I can experience that stage of my conscious existence while I am resting this physical vessel, then that means there's probably a wide array of other variations of my conscious existence throughout multiple realities. And that was actually how I got myself out of that SSP mindset, because a lot of people do get stuck there. And it just kind of blew the doors open on like, okay, so if that's possible, then that's probably possible, and that's probably, and all of this information just started flooding in. Like I said, I drove my poor wife crazy for like 3 weeks because she described it one. Well, I think I still do, actually. Okay, and she made the most wonderful observation of my awakening, and I don't know how familiar you'll be with these movies, but she compared it to Rain Man meets Goodwill Hunting. I was absolutely brilliant, but I sounded like a babbling idiot. Right? It was just the most surreal thing because, like I said, I was a solid C student. I left school before in grade 10, right? So, like, a lot of the things that I was suddenly understanding, I was like, how do I know this, right? And I don't know if that's from other sources of self or gnosis or what.
Yeah, and really quick, to touch on something you said there about solid C. You know, the first time you said it, I thought that was funny. And then the second time you said it, it's like, who cares? What the heck do grades have to do with anything? Actually, now that I think back to it, I am so glad that my parents didn't medicate me for ADHD because I don't even know if I had solid C's. But yeah, so that's really, you know, like solid C to me is just in one ear out the other, because the thing that really matters is the other stuff you said about how, like, it sounds even like, you know, channeling, people have their own relationship with what that word means. I did a video on it, but really even beyond that video, what I didn't touch on is the fact that when you're connecting, when you know you're connected, when you know that you're part of the unified field, channeling can also just be connecting with whatever other thing that is, and then getting that information. And that kind of sounds a little bit like how you were saying that you're a part of a larger thing, you were past that SSP phase, and now you're understanding and getting information from, you know, different parts of that whole.
Yeah. Oh, did you freeze? Yeah.
No.
No, I think that's pretty. Yeah, I think that's very close. And I actually want to thank you for something, because you just alleviated something that I've held on to my entire adult life, was, you know, how poorly I did in school. And nobody has ever said, who cares? Right? It was something I constantly just owned. It's like, yeah, I was a crappy student. My sister's a school teacher, right? Straight A's the whole life. And that, I don't know if that was done cognizantly or not, but I've never actually just went at it as who cares. So thank you.
Well, it is my honor, with a halo behind me, to come here and tell you who cares.
Before we get into my questions, our mutual friend Stephen from BG Cast. I may not be here if you get to ask this, but ask Sarah if she dove deeper to the weird time loop thing we could be potentially going through right now.
Yeah, I did. And what my gnosis says is that it was like, congratulations, that thing you're always effing talking about called a karmic feedback loop is what you did. So sometimes I'm like not understanding that I'm talking about the same thing, just in different paradigms. So that's the question. Remember that, like, there's a time loop and we're stuck in it. And it's called karma. We're stuck in a karmic feedback loop until we make different choices and until we evolve out of whatever that range is. And it's for each person different. So I don't remember how I phrased it last time, but I might have even been phrasing it more like an objective time loop that we are all experiencing together, rather than actually a karmic feedback loop that we're all in the same resonance with. So we're all resonating with it. You can unresonate with it.
Oh.
Yeah. So like, it's like ours, right? Oh no, the collective karma. Oh no, the collective whatever. But like, if you unhook yourself, you could go, okay, bye. Like, it's not yours anymore. Now it's like ours going, oh no, our time loop. So you see what I mean? Like, we all resonate with it because we're all a match to it, rather than something that maybe I was portraying in the past as an objective feedback loop that we were all kind of locked in. This is my newest understanding of it now.
can I add on to that? And it's kind of an add-on question. Do you think that karmic loop would have a lot to do with our emotional frequencies and where we're personally resonating, because we're going to be drawn to the things that are keeping us in there if we're still at the same emotional state, I think.
Oh yeah, like totally. I'm having a hard time right now being a vibrational match to things that I was a vibrational match to perfectly 5 years ago even. And the reason why I'm saying hard time, because you think like, what's so hard about that, is that you have to keep now from perhaps a less dynamic level. When you start going fully more into unconditional love, that's a large asking. That requires you to hold space in your heart for far more people, which is fine. But then when you're teaching from that space, it's just new. I guess it's just growth. I guess I'm just basically saying I'm going through a growth spurt. But that's emotional resonance. And so with you talking about how there's like this like emotional resonance that could be a part of the time loop, absolutely, because the emotional body, if you really think about it, is the emotional body to me is the will. The will is the thing that is experiencing oscillation. Once we go outside of this density, things aren't as tumultuous, even just one density above. It's still you know, emotion, but it's not the way that we experience emotion here. And then if you go above that, it's even less tumultuous. I'm using tumultuous for a purpose. I could call it other things, but tumultuous is correct. So then we'd have to go and say like, wow, so really we can only experience specific tumultuousness at a specific density. So essentially, yeah, back to what you said, you'd have to kind of be an emotional resonance match to this realm in the first place, because beyond it, there's still emotion, but it turns more and more the higher you go in density into something called sentience. And it's not the same. You don't experience emotion the same way at all.
Okay. So
you experience more like the thoughts and the desires behind it, but you don't experience like, you know, like waves, like how they oscillate. Here we can experience heartbreaking grief. At a higher level, you could experience unconditional love and therefore like a sadness, but it's not the same. And that's why you have people making very high level soul decisions, right? Like whatever their mission is, like intense ones, like, oh, I'll go be. And then like it's like, whoa, are you sure you want to do that? And it's a lot more braver. Pre-birth. Then once you're in it, you have to start learning how to forgive parts of yourself that made that choice in the first place because shit got real. Sorry.
No, I love it. I cuss at least once an episode.
Did that answer your question? I forgot the question.
It absolutely, it does.
Oh.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask one, and this one is from my wife. We're not in the most ideal living situation right now. We're living in a rented trailer, and it's falling to ill repair because of the landlord's age and all of this. Her question was, when your house and home is literally crumbling around you, how do you remain in grateful vibration to manifest a safer, better living situation? She's asking how to remain grateful even though things are going to hell all around us, I guess is the simplified version of it.
Oh, we got a huge problem in miscommunication if something made you guys think that you need to remain grateful. Where did that come from?
That it was part of the manifestation process.
I have heard it on from a couple of different guests that I've had, not from you specifically. It's just grateful is all I seem to be hearing about, is like, you got to be grateful or it won't come, or you got to, yeah. I've picked it up from several other guests that like gratitude is like the key to manifestation, or it just doesn't go.
Okay, yes, but not the way that it was phrased right there. How do we remain grateful? No, so whoever you had on your show, I actually would agree with them. I would say that yeah, gratitude is the vibration of calling forth more things to be grateful for. But even beyond that, gratitude is even beyond what just being a state that attracts more. So there's so much to like talk about there that what I will like start with is, instead of starting with gratitude, I would start with honoring the aspects of your psyche, the parts of yourself, whatever you want to call them, the parts of yourself that feel like they got a raw deal, that don't feel grateful. Giving them love, giving them love, and really being able to hold space for them so that when you guys are, you know, in a state of something to be grateful for, it doesn't feel like it's at their expense. There's a way of honoring the parts of yourself that feel really cheated right now or blindsided because, wait, you know, like, how is this happening? I do this for the world. I'm honest. I don't cheat. Those people over there. So there's parts of the self that feel, you know, kind of raw or resentful. I would honor them in a way to where they don't feel like when you're being grateful, that it's at their cost, that it's at their expense, that somehow because they're being betrayed. And there's a way to do that. And if there wasn't, I would start somewhere else. But with you guys, I would start there. And from there, now they'll release resistance. They'll start going, okay, it's not stealing anything away from me. They're showing me, they're validating me. They didn't go, wow, we have to triangulate you. Wow, we have to avoid you. Wow, you're holding us back. So because you're honoring them and you're validating them, but you're not necessarily allowing them in the driver's seat. You're going, oh, honey, I will love you. I will hold space for you. I will develop intimacy with you, but you're not driving the car, honey. You're in the passenger seat, my love. You're in the passenger seat. You're not driving the car. Sometimes people get that all confused. They don't understand the right order of operation because they don't understand that you could like love fear or you could hold space for shame, but that doesn't mean you put them in the front of the car. Sometimes they need to be in a baby seat, the little baby thing in the back. They don't even go in the passenger seat. This can go in the passenger seat. It's fine. But you get what I'm saying? There's different designated spots for different things, and we need to know that first. And we need to know who's driving and why they're driving and if they deserve to drive. So once we know that about it, gratitude doesn't become weaponized. We have to de-weaponize gratitude. When I'll give you one example. I've told my clients, oh no, some clients, very few have told me, I can't do infinite love and gratitude. I never tell them to, but they watch the video and then they bring it up. They go, I can't do infinite love and gratitude. It doesn't feel right. Well, that's funny because when I found infinite love and gratitude in the second Miyoto book, that doctor who did water, Emoto, mm-hmm. He had this one book that was not even one that he wrote. He had a book that each chapter was written by a different doctor who paid their homage to like water or showed like their discovery around water. And one of the chapters was, I forget his name, but he said that he started like understanding muscle testing because I muscle test. So I got interested in that chapter. And he started linking muscle testing somehow with infinite love and gratitude. And he said that I forget how he discovered it, but he was like, once I started applying infinite love and gratitude to specific muscle tests, it like went strong, like the energy field, because that's what muscle testing is. You're testing for something that makes you go weak or strong. So infinite love and gratitude kept making these things go strong. And then like he has this whole system behind it. And I don't know what it is, but he has this whole system behind how it changes the neuromolecules or the neuropeptides, something like that. I read that chapter at my lowest of lows. I read that chapter when I was actually at the same time of consuming information because I can't stop. Also trying to figure out how to leave the earth in the least violent way possible because I don't like pain. So for me, it was never like, oh my God, you have to choose. I never felt like it was inauthentic to me. And I was doing this at my lowest of lows. So some people will have different perceptions than others, is my point. Some people will perceive that if you're stating and infusing things with infinite love and gratitude, that they're resentful. For me, I was at my lowest of lows. I was saying infinite love and gratitude, not even from resentful. I was thinking like, how dare I feel entitled enough? Like life already robbed me. So my point is that if there's a way that you can create harmony, not just with infinite love and gratitude, you could use that tool if you want, helped me, but just any form of whatever gratitude practices you're hearing from other people, there's a way to do those as long as they're not weaponized, as long as gratitude doesn't become weaponized in a way where it's like, okay, because now that's just religion, right? Don't we hate religion? Or not maybe if we hate it, but don't we hate, okay, I do this ritual, I take the bread, that's not how to do this. So that's like the first part. The second part is that like I share gratitude means all the time because it makes the algorithm not mad at me. And the algorithm is always mad at me. So I share gratitude means all the time, but not because somebody should kind of like replace that with shadow work. And I don't think you guys are in avoidance at all. I know you guys do inner work. And I think that there's just kind of like some innocent friendly fire between understanding the darker elements of reality like you guys are doing and how to actually be grateful in situations that you're not grateful in. Also, gratitude isn't the only thing that needs to come into play here. Gratitude is kind of like, if you don't mind me, it's a scapegoat right now because what's happening is you guys got poverty consciousness going on. That's the real thing that I would do shadow work on. You can't
Absolutely.
have consciousness and then have gratitude as band-aids over poverty consciousness and then blame the band-aids for not holding in the poverty consciousness.
And that's my wife chiming in. She's like, "Oh snap!" Because you're exactly right. You mentioned there about emotions and stuff. You think the energy we project with our emotions and feelings, and well, I guess even our actions, do have a real world effect on our reality? Like, when you're feeling bad, you're affecting everything and it kind of changes the way things turn out. If you're feeling really good, you have a great day. Like, is it really that simple? Like, the energy that we're projecting creates what's happening around us, I guess is the question.
Yes and no. Like we can't control other people, right? I could have a great vibration. And if I allow other people around me, or if I go online, I can't control what other people will do to try to get my attention or what will happen online. So it kind of depends upon us being really aware of like what the quality of our day would look like, rather than us supposed to be like built like steel, interacting in environments or outlets or communities that we can't control and that don't genuinely have a return or a feedback of being positive. So just stay away from people and then you can be happy. At least that's what I figured out. That's what I finally figured out. So I just wanted like a giant house so that I could just like be happy. Just kidding. No, really, it's one of those things where it's a 50-50 split. It's us making better choices so that we're not constantly put in bad vibes. You know, like it's us sculpting, becoming the magician. It's us sculpting our reality so that not that we can control it fully, but that we can at least not set the universe up for failure by putting ourselves constantly in, like I said, specific dynamics that don't return, like consistently don't return feel good or positivity. And then also the other part of that is us. And that is like us being able to kind of have such peace of mind through understanding that we become almost unshakable, so that even if our vibration is impacting something else or is around something else, that it's not so flimsy, so futile that, you know, like it's a veneer. And now as soon as it's tested, it kind of just turns bad vibes rather than good vibes. So your positive mindset that you are concerned, that anyone is concerned with having an impact on its reality. Now that I went through all of that, I'll answer your question. Your mindset is only as good as it is true. And it's not like, okay, I'm going to have a good mindset and hopefully that good mindset is going to have this type of effect on my environment or this type of whatever, because then we're doing things still from that religious level of, okay, I took the wine, I took the bread, I'm doing the thing. I don't even think about my mood. When bad things happen, I don't even think about like, oh my God, was my mood bad? And even when good things happen, I'm not like, oh my God, did I influence them with my thing? Like, it's really about no longer keeping count about your mood. And so now the question would naturally become, okay, so how do I have an organically positive vibe that organically impacts reality the way I want it to, or in a positive way because I'm positive? And that's always going to come back to the quality of a person's own transparency with themselves and others.
That makes a lot of sense, and you answered that perfectly. That is probably the best advice I've ever gotten. Sorry, you just kind of blew me away there.
Yeah, it's all about like the transparency of something. Oh, go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say kind of quickly, it was a question I had written down. You were talking about avoiding people, and one of the questions I had was, is there a way to avoid negative interaction with NPCs? Because I've heard you speak about NPCs several times.
It depends on what arena, because yeah, of course you can. If it's online, I just block people now. I've actually this year become block happy. It's where like, because, you know, like the bigger you get, the more people just want to kind of like drag you down or poop on you or something weird. Like it's a lot more acting out. And so I had to make a personal choice and be like, do you want to be a million account or what? And I went, you know what? If it happens, it happens. But I'm going to lead with blocking people because I'll lead with like, I didn't sign up for that. I'm not like, oh, at all costs. So because of that, I have more quality of life than I did even 2 years ago when I was trying to keep it cool and let everybody have free speech and let people call me awful things online. And then I had to go like, do I really even want to do this? Do I want to even do this anymore if I'm being treated this way? And then I thought, okay, for me to even continue to do this, I'm going to have to like quality control or else I won't even want to do this anymore. So online, because you're a host of a podcast, that would be like the first arena where you're going to experience NPCs the most before they start being like in a physical setting where now you're really quality of life suffering. And don't get me wrong, that happens all the time. At that point, I highly doubt people would use the words NPC for that, though. I normally hear those type of dynamics displayed more through the word narcissism.
That, yeah.
I mean, people
since we're on the sub, go ahead.
Did you mean, were you calling NPCs people that you interact with in real life?
There's a lot of like volatile neighbors, like, and just completely strange things, like random interactions with just obscure, like we have a neighbor that will let her alarm clock go for 3 hours in the middle of the afternoon for absolutely no reason. right?
Okay.
And another one that will shine their light in our backyard when it has nothing to, like, into our backyard at our back door, but it's not even on their yard anymore. And it's like, what is this? Wow, why is this happening? Like,
Okay, that makes more sense. Are these people who you can like go up to them and tell them, please don't do that. This is how it's affecting me. You might not be aware of this, but this is something that's a huge issue for me, and kind of make them aware of like how, hey, that thing that you don't even know you're doing, do you know that that's really causing us a lot of harm?
possibly. One, maybe. I'm not sure about the other one. That's why I'm giving you a convoluted answer, because I'm sitting there trying to figure out with both of them. But yeah, we're literally on either side of us. Just, we have zero interaction, but they're constantly interfering. It's just strange.
Yeah, and so NPCs, like for instance, like my neighbors directly behind me are, and I had a really important video I did 2 years ago on quantum entanglement, and they were throwing the most obnoxious party ever, and I was just tired. I was tired of always working through real hard transmissions to deliver with giant like not even just like, oh, okay, they're having a party. Like I was constantly under large, the rudest, obnoxious, like 5 days a week. They would even have bingo back there. So finally I got so mad, I went over there and I just told them, I know more people are living here than are supposed to. Do you want to make an enemy? I have things, because they didn't care. So I started getting like, like I had Shiva with me. So Shiva was like, we were like, and since then, now all they do is just have a dog bark, which is way better than what they were doing before. So sometimes you got to get kind of tough with life. And you know what I mean? I'm not saying like physical, but I'm saying like, sometimes because we know about higher consciousness, and because we know about manifesting, and because we know about the universe and how it works, we sometimes just kind of leave our own power and think like, why isn't this fixing itself for us? And it's like, no, as a matter of fact, sometimes the universe will up the heat because we're not doing something with our own free will to kind of assert ourselves in a thing. Did I wait for my spirit guides to tell them that? No, I straight up went over there and threatened them and said, I know you guys have too many people living here. I know that that's not the most spiritual thing in the world to say, but I'm trying to give you a crystal clear example of what you need to do with your reality.
I appreciate that, because there are several things that I could approach them with in that sense. So yeah, thank you once again. Before we stray from it too far, you were talking about the notoriety and how it gets weird and you run into those people. Before this happens, and it'll probably start tomorrow, to the 3 or 4 fake Sarahs that are going to try to add me, I actually know her. Stop it. Okay? Like, stop it. The last time Stephen and I spoke to you, I had 3 fake accounts add me in 3 days that were Sarah. And I was just like, this is ridiculous. I just spoke to her. I know you're not her. Like, stop it.
Blessings, beloved. Are you sure it was not I?
Yes! That's the opening.
Amazing.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry, you caught me off guard. I didn't.
No, like, well, no. So I have business verified, right? And business verified is so that you get protection on your account. And what's supposed to come with that protection is routine monitoring of other accounts that aren't a part of your business, that are supposed to clean themselves. But I have to continuously report them, and my team has to report them when the service is supposed to routinely do it on its own. Now, I don't want to be too picky, because I do feel like I can save that for far more other things. So I don't want to be like, they're not doing their job. No, they are, but I guess it's just not perfect. And so I still have a lot of impersonators, and it happens with every public figure, and it happens for everything. My dad told me that his friend was sending Shakira money. I was like, oh God, your friend's got it. That is delusional. I understand me because I'm not Shakira. So somebody might really think that I'm doing a reading on them, right? Because what makes things even worse is I'm an energy healer. So it's almost kind of like it could be Sarah who reached out to me, but no, it's never Sarah who reaches out. It's never.
Yeah. And I actually had that happen. I almost got scammed when I was first figuring this out. I had become a follower of Clark Cagley. He does a lot of breath work and those type of things. And I got, it looked like a legit account. And he's like, oh, I picked you for this random thing. And I was just so into it. I was like, this is great. I just became a follower. And then I was like, wait, why would they send me a video of them processing it? And then dude asks me for a credit card. And I'm like, damn, right? I just fell for it. But so it does happen. But, you know, I just don't understand the logic of pretending to be other people.
Yeah. And, you know, like some people have even told me that they were so embarrassed that they believed it was me, that they like were shut down emotionally from the fact that they thought they were interacting through this direct message with me, and that they had to unsubscribe and unfollow all of my stuff. So it actually affects me, and it doesn't affect me like money wise. I'm not talking about that. It affects my platforms and my content, because some people, and those are just the ones that told me about it. How many people were too embarrassed and they're not going to like tell me? So it's a real problem. It's like a real problem. And I just hope that everyone knows it by now. It's 2025. So hopefully we all just know it by now.
Yeah, no. And I think that's awesome that you eventually did get to tell them or speak to them in some way. Like, yeah, okay, that's terrible that happened, but that is very nice. And yeah, I can actually completely comprehend, because I had that crushing moment of like, oh, that's not Clark Cagley. I feel like an ass, right? So it's hurtful, and I don't understand it, and I wish people would stop doing it.
I mean, just the karma alone. Why would you want that type of karma? That's heavy. And I'll just say this, especially for me. So the people that it's even worse.
Yeah. We were talking about consciousness and receiving information, and do you think we receive most of our information? Like, I know, like, this is my physical body, but what makes Dawn Dawn, I think, actually comes from a higher source of consciousness. Is that basically what you understand as well? Like, I look at it in the stage of frequency. It's like I'm almost receiving a signal, and how clear my antenna or receptor is how much I'm going to understand.
Okay, so just so I have it more clear, your question is how you receive information?
Do you think we're receiving information from, I guess, source, like a creator, source creator of all, I guess?
Yeah, so I'm not really certain if there is a source creator of all, the way that sometimes people might think that there's like a source creator of all. I do actually believe in panpsychism, like that, ultimately what Hermeticism would call mind, but not like just as like a mind, but basically a unified field of consciousness. But there being like a totality of that we would call source, I'm still kind of like expanding through that. That's what I, have always felt, but I'm going through an upgrade. I'm always going through an upgrade. So to answer your question, of course. To me, though, it's kind of like the best way, back to how I said gnosis, is like a direct knowing, a direct experience. Now, gnosis means more than one thing. And I really don't want to kind of like only sculpt that term into how I'm using it now, because gnosis itself was originally known as like being secret knowledge, specifically around ascent or salvation. And so gnosis has different like means, but it's still at the end of the day is about a direct knowing, a direct experience. And so that direct experience can sometimes be overwhelmingly anticlimactic. And when it is, that's almost when we're like, what is this? Because it was like, it's just coming through. And, you know, like I don't know another way of saying it at the moment other than download. Yeah. But it's just coming through. And, you know, it might come sometimes through a highly mystical means, but sometimes it's just so mundane that we go, where was that from? And I think that you might be so regularly receiving insights that sometimes it might just it might be a little bit of like more information knowing about something that's now become like mundane. It's easier almost if we like took some sort of ceremony and we're in something and we called forth with intention our guides or a specific aspect of our consciousness or our higher self, whatever we would like to call it. It's much more like when the stakes aren't so high and we're just naturally receiving our knowing. It sometimes could almost come with a little bit of like a lot more investigation and complexity. That's what I was trying to say. But yeah, like I don't know if you call it a higher self or whether you prefer source. Like, are you just getting information from source? And, you know, sometimes it's coming from different levels of dimensions. So we can still say source, you know, even though I'm going through like a upgrade, like, is there a one unified source? Sure, maybe. But also I think that sometimes we overemphasize that and let's emphasize the fact that we are all kind of like the Godhead in a system that, and I know this might sound like, in a system that's less organized and more free than we might be able to handle. Did that make sense?
It does, and it kind of sort of explains my understanding of it too, because like I think a lot of what I'm remembering or learning or figuring out is aspects of myself are telling me or teaching me these things, and I'm just remembering them in this form. Because like I'll give you the example. I had another podcaster ask me if I thought that this was a simulation, and I meditated on it before I went to sleep. And not only did I wake up with an understanding of where to look for the information to make the point that I was trying to get across, I woke up with a rudimentary understanding of quantum physics. And I was just like, how the hell do I know about the biomolecular construct of this reality when it was literally one of those things. I just woke up and I went, and I started writing and typing and everything just came out. And I was like, where did all of this come from? So exactly to that, like, I was like, that's what I was trying to figure out. Is it another stage of my consciousness that I'm kind of pulling information from? Is it, you know, a giant head, or like, that's what I was trying to figure out.
Yeah. And so for instance, like when I get my downloads, I'm not tracking them, but now that the question was asked, I like just have the answer, and it's coming from different places. So like, I just say higher self because it's easy, right? People can digest like, okay, Sarah gets her information from, you know, her background in mysticism, but from her higher self, right? I don't say, oh, I'm from the 9th dimensional Pleiadian Council. I don't have a problem with people who say that they're from that. I'm just saying that's not what that's not how I present myself. I say my higher self,
Yeah.
and it, you take it or leave it. But let's say that an aspect of my consciousness is receiving information from the 9th dimensional Pleiadian Council. But let's say another insight is actually just coming from universal consciousness, what we would know as source. But when I was talking about source earlier, I was talking about beyond universal consciousness. But universal consciousness being source, that could be where a lot of your downloads are coming from. And then depending on a person's own specific paradigms regarding higher self, because sometimes the higher self can be source of the person if that's the way they regard it. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes the higher self is a different aspect. So sometimes it could just be coming from our higher self, depending on, a person's own way of perceiving the metaphysical.
That makes sense. It took me a second to process all that, but yeah, that
Because
is again.
some people view the higher self as being a middleman. Sometimes people view the higher self as being source. Some people view it as being a middleman. So I'm basically just saying whatever somebody believes, you could be receiving information from that higher self, or from this, or from the 9th dimensional Arcturian Council, or you could be getting it from, and by the time it comes to us, it's kind of like not really mailed to us with the address of where it came from. It's like, this is from the 9th dimensional Arcturian Council, like I'm connected a lot with a lot of what we would call star seeds, but the only ones I've ever seen with my physical eyes, have been the Arcturians. I'm connected to many more than the Arcturians. I've just never seen them. And I don't need to channel them. I just get I receive what I receive, and I resonate with it, or I don't resonate with it. And so because of that, sometimes we don't need to know who mailed the thing in, but, we're connected to our team from multi-dimensions.
I can't tell you how much I know the listeners and viewers are going to get something out of this, but you are answering so many of my personal questions. I can't thank you enough, because you're helping me put the pieces in my head at least where they sort of should be, because this whole thing has been a year and a half of scatterbrain and why do I know this and what's going on and what is this? This is some of the most rational and logical explanations of the experiences I've been having that I've ever received. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate this.
Oh, you're so welcome. Just a year and a half? You're streamlining this process.
I came in one kind of hard and fast, and it was like, okay, I don't know that. Yeah, it's been a strange experience. Like, it was, yeah, about a year and a half ago that this all started. Like, what I knew about the mystical or the paranormal before that is me and 2 adults and 4 other kids saw a UFO when we were kids, and I'm pretty sure ghosts were real. That was my understanding of the paranormal. And
now look at
then everything. So one of the things I watched the video about, and I was wondering if you can give an explanation, because I hear it all the time, and you even touched on it earlier, is what is a soul contract and how do we learn about them?
Soul contracts are kind of how we can put a guidance system over this experience. So a soul contract might be more meaningful to one recipient than it is to the other. They're in all shapes and sizes. So typically what we're thinking of is not more of the casual typically when we're thinking of soul contracts, we're thinking of the ones that are the closest and strongest, the deepest ones. And but soul contracts can be made and they can be revised, you know, like if a specific soul contract went, okay, you're going to meet this person and you're going to learn from them. Classical one, so I'll just go with classical. That can go however it goes, and you might learn the things that you meant to from them, and they might learn the things that they meant to from you, but then the highest outcome is not predetermined. It's like, and then we live happily ever after and we marry each other or whatever. So the soul contract just determines that there is specific meeting point at some point inside your story script with the opportunity. That this is what a soul contract is. It is the opportunity for something, whether that something is large to us or whether that something is small to us, whatever it is. It's the opportunity for that. Because something could have the opportunity of learning something, but then our own free will might get in the way of that. Or best case scenario, our free will might really take that opportunity, which is the soul contract, and make it an even better outcome than what the soul contract had written. Does that make sense?
It does. It absolutely does. And I think that is a very good explanation of it because, like, you know, that terminology gets thrown around a lot. And that's what I like to do on my show as well, is like sometimes just break things down to people, well, for people like me that like, hey, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on around me that I have no idea about. So like that was a wonderful explanation of how that works, because I think it's important that people know these things, and that's why I love your channel so much. Like I can't even express how many paradigm shifting things. Like I watch one of your videos, I have a page of questions. It's literally, so it's like, yeah, that's where I end up getting, it's like, oh, good.
One more layer on top of what I said. So I was kind of going over things, how it could be better than expected, whatever that would mean, depending on the soul contract. It could go under. Now let's focus on if it goes under. The person, and this is why soul contracts aren't just made pre-birth. They're being revised in real time. A person could have made a soul contract. Let's go back to that same one. You meet somebody in person, they teach you, you teach them. And let's say that soul contract doesn't go, and then we married happily ever after, whatever the highest free will outcome could have been. Let's say it goes, and then things got really disappointing because they betrayed me. They're this and this and that. So what can happen from there is that whatever was left from that original soul contract that was not fully completed because free will led it in a specific direction, a new soul contract with another soul can be made to kind of finish off whatever that thing was.
Does that, a lot of the times when we have soul contracts, there's also karma attached to them. Would that one that was broken and then carried on still be able to clear that karma? Sorry, that one just came to me off the top of my head.
Well, okay, let's use that example, even though it was never a strong defined one from the beginning. Let's just use that one.
Yeah.
The karma could have been on the other side. The karma could have been complete on our side, but we couldn't control the other person's, how they showed up in it. So they would still have the karma. In fact, that's how karmic relationships make the world go round. It's because one person's not learning and the other person kind of just wants to like grow and get out of the dynamic because they kind of like realize, oh, this is just going round. So if the person is meeting another soul to go complete that soul contract with, that could mean karma, but that could also mean like, no, I finished my deal, they didn't finish theirs, and now I just need to move on.
That makes sense, and I think that's balanced. Yeah. I did have one more question, and this one actually is from my friend. His name's Lee. I assume he's been having a lot of astral experiences when he goes to sleep. He wanted to know if you've ever heard of what you think of the Great Planes, or if you can explain them. I think he's talking about the astral.
What I've noticed is there's a lot of different paradigms or names for possibly the same thing. The Great Planes is not a term that I'm familiar with.
I think he's probably talking about like the astral plane.
Oh, yeah, I'm very familiar with that. What about that?
I'm.
What was the question about the astral plane?
Just like, if you can like describe how we can traverse it, basically. Because like I know, like I have experiences while I'm asleep, and some of them I seem cognizant, and then other ones I'm just kind of there. Is there a way to, I don't know, be more of the pilot, I guess, when you're having the astral experiences?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So what you'd have to know is intent is a very powerful force, like a highly, highly powerful force beyond anything. And the intent is dictated through the soul. So intention is the number one way to navigate. And how this would look like is if a person wants to have a controlled experience, I have experiences all the time, but I don't control them. Specifically just because of my physical body and how it's already kind of from the get-go had issues with the vibration here on Earth. So I just don't do it that much, maybe later on in life when I just really don't care about my physical body, but I'm still trying to like heal, and, I'm still trying to like operate, and it's hard on my physical body and my nervous system. But for some people that they don't have that hard of a time on the earth plane, it's kind of like, I'm not saying it's easy on their body, but their body, it's less traumatic on their body. So in that case, I would say explore controlled OBEs. And controlled OBEs, it's so many different methods for it. And so there's so many different methods for it, but also they'll all operate regardless of whatever technique you use to get out of body in a controlled way, meaning you're aware of it. It's not just like you're in the middle of a scene and you don't really remember it, but what you're seeking is like controlled experiences. So just know that whatever technique you actually end up using, or if it's multiple techniques, intention is the most powerful force. So if, let's say, you are out of body and you're aware and you want to have a controlled experience, it is done through your intention. It is done through your intention. And if you have a lot of fear about, let's say, like, oh no, can I trust that being? Or, oh no, can this and this and that? Your frequency now, like everything you've become aware of now, builds up inside your frequency. Your frequency protects you, literally. Your frequency literally protects you. So because of that, if somebody just off the street, they weren't sincere, they were doing no inner work, they were not aware of reality, and they wanted that, I would say, I don't know if you're going to be a match on that other side to the greatest of guides. But because you're not that scenario, I'm actually telling you the opposite of that. You can let down your guard because your frequency will protect you at that point. And now it's a matter of like, the control, what would make it a controlled OBE is the intention, but then also the intention of wherever you want to go, mixed with like the surrender of fear, the surrender of, oh my God, can I trust this guide that's appearing to help me and give me information? Oh my God, can I trust this being that now I'm seeing at the destination do you get what I mean? Because your frequency is the thing that's making you a match in the astral realm to the experiences that are more from your sovereignty rather than from, like, wow, this person just went out of body and they don't know what they're doing and they don't know anything about whatever. Because then that's like the lower astral plane. And the lower astral plane is where there's, ghosts. There's just a lot of unfinished business. There's a lot of different beings, just all things that you could look at as one form or another of addiction, one form or another of using free will, whether they're aware of it or not, using free will to stay inside that bandwidth and play out specific addictions. So going beyond that bandwidth is where like people now are starting to experience like, oh, I wanted to say like the intention could be like, take me to, I was trying to like, it's hard because I never filter what I say, but I'm like trying to filter it right now. Take me, I was gonna say, take me to an Amazon planet. There are only Amazons there. Take me to, or I want to see the Akashic records. And the Akashic records can be accessed in so many different ways, but if you're in the OBE state and you specify it, now it will show you its version of that.
That's awesome. I have a whole lot of more studying, and I got to talk to Stephen again because I think he's onto a few things as well. So thank you, because you answered Lee's question and a couple of my own with that answer. So that was amazing.
Yeah. And so I don't know if you've ever heard of William Bullham, Bulham. He is like an out-of-body expert. My favorite is Robert Monroe. He has amazing books on that. And then Darius Wright is an out-of-body expert as well. Yeah, I mean, I out-of-body travel, but that's not where I get my information from. So I just out-of-body travel because, it's a relief. It's a relief from my spirit.
I've had a couple of experiences myself, but I'm going to be doing some more research. When you and me and Stephen were talking last, you had some exciting news. Are we allowed to talk about that now?
Oh, yeah. Now we can talk all about that.
Okay. Do you want to tell everybody about what you got coming up with them and what else you got coming up?
Oh, yeah. So I am now going to take over the Alchemist show to Gaia under the name Mystery Teachings. So Mystery Teachings is already a franchise for them, but I'm taking over the franchise and rebooting it. And so Mystery Teachings is my new series on Gaia. The first season of it comes out in the beginning of summer, I believe, this summer, which I'm so excited about. In the meantime, I'm doing, monthly live streams on my YouTube channel still. And they're long enough to where if you actually think about it, if my average video on YouTube every Tuesday as it's offering, the way it has been for the past 3 years was roughly anywhere from 12 to 20 minutes. My monthly live streams are all of that time just within one live stream. So there's actually nothing truly lost in the meantime, but now I'm getting to finally rest and receive the upgrades that I have not been able to do because I've been nonstop making content every month. And so I might do more than one live stream a month still on my YouTube channel for my audience for free if they don't want to subscribe to Gaia. But my passion project and attention is now on my mystery school or my mystery teachings series. And you can still keep up with, you know, esoteric content that I'm creating through my live streams, if that's, you know, just if that suits you better. So yeah.
That is so exciting and so awesome, Sarah. I felt honored that me and Steven were some of the first that you told about that. And I was like, holy crap. I just got to hear that from like the source of the information itself. That was so cool. And like, I was like, I can't tell anybody. And I didn't. So I am so proud of myself that I kept the secrets.
Aww, that's so sweet.
You also have some retreats coming up as well, don't you?
Yeah, so I have my summer alchemy retreat in Sedona this July. I think it's July. And then I'm going to also do one in the fall. But yeah, I have my July alchemy retreat coming up. And my alchemy retreats are going to kind of be modified in a way so that I shift my attention and focus onto them now, because I have been nonstop going and I haven't been able to kind of do other passion projects of mine or even finish my book. And so I'm kind of looking for where to consolidate things. And so basically, I'm not saying that my energy healing practice is going to go away, but I am shifting everything to kind of like have my main offering be my alchemy retreats. Yeah, so I'm just glad that I get to receive upgrades now, because it's kind of been a lot for me being energetically sensitive to like constantly be in third dimensional mode a lot. So I'm just really grateful right now for the rest. Never thought I'd say that.
I don't doubt it. That's one of the things I seem to be having an issue with, is balancing my energy, but I'm rebounding. I had a crazy end to last year. Within 3 days, my wife got T-boned in our pickup truck and had a near fatal collision. And then 2 days later, she was getting a very important call from her lawyer, and I had a cardiac incident that was actually stemmed from peritonitis from a leaky gallbladder, but that's a whole other thing. So this year is looking much more positive and it's been heading in a much better direction, despite all of the trials and tribulations at the end of last year.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry to hear that.
We actually got to the point where we're like, like the question I asked you earlier, like, how do you remain grateful? And it was getting to the point where I was like, oh, this just sucks all the time. And I was like, no, I can't do that. You know, the tires on my truck are $400 a piece. At least they're not flat. And that was the only thing I could see right there that I could like, there's a speck of light. I can go to that. And I'm like, hey, but my truck is running and I can get to my job and I can do all of this. And it was literally like wading through the crap of like these horrible situations that kept happening. And it was that one bit of like, I can be thankful for that. Right. And that's actually what started to turn it around.
Yeah. It also feels like, do you have services that you can charge for? Sometimes people are in such a poverty consciousness, they don't feel like they can really sustain themselves financially off of asking for what they're worth. Like, I would just examine wherever there's like poverty blocks.
Yeah. I'm a digital creator on the side, but I kind of let it fall to the wayside, and maybe I should pick it back up because I was actually making some okay money off of that as well.
You know, there was one time where I had an editor so good. It wasn't for a long time, but I had an editor so good that I actually had to make them aware that they should be charging me more. And I forced a raise. So sometimes people don't even realize something, and it's, you know, because life, you know, or a foster kid, like who knows? There's 1,000 different things, but sometimes people are too entitled, and sometimes we're not entitled enough.
Me and Stephen were actually just talking about this. We did a spiritual egotism, and then we ended up ending on basically the poverty mindset. And it is something that a lot of us get into, is that mindset of good enough, right? Like, oh, it's good enough. I'll accept this because, and yeah, that's actually a very valid thing that's been something I'm working through. So you nailed it again.
Yeah, isn't it funny how the people in the world that we are the most kind of like, hey, stop doing that. Don't ask for permission. But we're supposed to be poor to change the world. So I don't know exactly what your offerings are, but I'm just saying that maybe if there's an examination of kind of like where poverty consciousness might be in the way versus a genuine block, which we all have.
And that's kind of what we're trying to balance right now. Like, is it a block or is it poverty consciousness? Because like I'll get into it. I used to have a terrible relationship with money. I used to say I hated it. I didn't want to be a part of the economic system. I like just, and it's because I grew up in poverty, and I was just like, I hate the whole economic system. And it was finally Kyla, my wife, she's like, you need to stop that because your relationship with money might be what's bringing a lot of this on. And it has shifted since
I've seen people too afraid to lose community.
Yeah.
I've seen so many different blocks, like it's crazy. Like I had this one person interview me one time, and I saw he had all the parts there to, you know, like sometimes people need a new camera, sometimes people need this and that. He had everything. He just couldn't like look at the camera. He couldn't like change just a few things to make it look more professional, and was asking me like, how do I make money? And I started laughing, and I was like, why do you like my videos? Am I in like a dark room with like poor resolution something going, you guys, like, what, you know, like sometimes we have all the things there even, and we just don't know how to kind of like allow ourselves to have things be serious, take it serious, look serious. We're serious about it, but sometimes it's too embarrassing for other people to watch us and, oh no, they caught me taking it serious.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. And there again is a multitude of things that I should have a second look at about myself, because I guess that's one of the best points of the night is self-reflection is very key in the entire existence on this planet, because if you just passed life by, you're not going to notice the things you can do to change your life. I get. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And also there's so many different pain points, and there's so many different parts that those pain points come from. So really it's just about honoring where we are at our part of our journey, and then speaking to that for however long we're there. And I like your background. It reminds me of Twin Peaks.
Thank you. So I think we can wrap it up there for the night. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time out, Sarah, because I know you were incredibly busy, and I appreciate every moment of energy you were able to give tonight, because it's exhausting coming to these understandings and the downloads and the upgrades, and then trying to be a person. Like, you still have to be a human in the middle of all of this, and it is exhausting. So I sincerely appreciate your time. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate that. And it's a real, it's real good to speak with you about these things. And I'm just sending you and your family infinite love and gratitude. And I'm just, you know, really keeping you guys in my heart.
I like, wow. You just like, I just got an energy burst. Sorry. Thank you. So I want to thank everybody in the chat that participated tonight, and Fearless Frankie, I see you popped in. He said he loves you, Sarah. So he's another big fan.
Thank you.
And as for everybody else that's watching and listening, as I always say at the end of my shows, if you can go outside, please do, because it's a lot better than sitting in front of a screen. Thank you.